All right, well, the Young Turks cover. Okay, just calm down, okay? All right, Wes and I are here. Jimmy's going to join us later because we've got two different things going on tonight. We've got a debate, which is going to start in about 25 minutes, and we have some elections. Okay, so Wes, I'm ready for breaking news. Marco Rubio's won his second election. What is this? Marco Rubio's won Puerto Rico. We are calling it Marco Rubio. With his second victory. He's got Minnesota and Puerto Rico, perhaps the two most disparate elections we've had, right? But he got them both. So he's got a lot of diversity in his wins, but that's about it. So he got slaughtered yesterday. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the bigger election today is Maine for the Democrats. That's the only one that remains. That also, the polls close in 24 minutes.
You want to give us your guess right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bernie's going to win. The question is, well, there's a lot of questions. How close, yada, yada. And so let me give you guys context, and then we'll get Wes's guess. Hillary Clinton had a 10-point lead in Kansas in the last poll they did, which was 2 weeks before the voting. So that's a long time, right? Mm-hmm. But still, okay, hey, not bad, right? Now, let me see if I can find you. Yes, here it is. Now, the actual vote yesterday was 67.7 for Bernie Sanders, 32.3 for Hillary Clinton. So she lost by 35. She was favored by 10 and lost by 35. Okay. Now, by the time the voting happened, she wasn't exactly favored. A lot of people thought Bernie Sanders was going to win Kansas. But I don't know anyone who said he'd win it by 35, and I don't know anyone who's giving him credit for that large a victory. I do know a lot of people giving Hillary Clinton a lot of credit for the size of her southern victories, including Super Tuesday and then Louisiana yesterday. And by the way, that's fair. She won by 48 in Louisiana, which is crushing victory. And Louisiana has more delegates, so she actually picked up more delegates, not nonsense, bullshit, super delegates, but real delegates. She picked up more delegates yesterday than Bernie Sanders did. So you got to give her credit for that, and you got to point that out. But I gave you that as context for, I don't know, if the polls are off by 45 points, who knows what's going to happen in any election.
That's true. That's
right?
true. My guess is he's going to win it by 10.
Win it by 10. Okay. That would be closer to his Nebraska win. His Nebraska win was here. Let me give it to you. I want to be exact here. If we can find it in time. Here we go. 57-42. Wow, that's also a 25-point win. Okay, now the number of delegates there are not
15 point.
Look at that bias. You're right, a 15-point lead. My bad. I got so blown away by the Kansas numbers, even though I'd seen them earlier.
They're unbelievable numbers.
Yeah.
Especially the way that the press has portrayed the campaign in the last 2 weeks has been, Clinton's the nominee. And everybody else just needs to be quiet, and we're not really going to pay attention to anything they say or do.
Wes, we haven't talked about that at all on the show.
I know you have. And listen, and I'm not declared for either candidate. But I can there was a lot more attention for Bernie in the national press in the run-up to the election. And once the primaries started, even after his victories, I felt like the coverage dropped down. Before South Carolina even.
Yeah. It's not within dispute. So yesterday, as we were doing the show live, before the voting began, we said, we predicted if Bernie wins 2 out of 3 states, if he loses any of those states, if he loses 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 3, the headlines will be it's over, it's over, it's over, right? But if he wins 2 out of 3, the headlines will still be dismissive. That was our prediction ahead of time.
That was a good prediction.
Right.
And accurate.
Oh, boy, was that accurate. So the Washington Post headline that we read for folks live on the air after the results came in was, Ted Cruz wins 2 states, Hillary Clinton wins Louisiana. No mention of Bernie Sanders' victories at all. Fox News had a much larger headline putting out all the states. They're like, and Sanders wins Nebraska.
Wow.
Like, what happened to Kansas? That Kansas got called first. They just refused to put Kansas in the headline. So that was amazing. I assume it's an oversight, but that's a lot of oversights back to back to back. And then Politico, let me see if I can find that for you guys, because I tweeted it out, and then there was more dismissive ones afterwards. But this one was.
Well, the
Oh,
pressure,
here it is. Here it is. Sorry. The political one right after the election was Bernie bogs down Hillary. Like, oh, what do you? By winning, you're being a pain in the ass, right?
I stepped in some Bernie.
Yeah,
That's why I'm moving so slowly.
Yeah, and it's not like, hey, Bernie wins and has a chance of winning. It's like Bernie's annoying Hillary by continuing to win. Yeah, that's true. That is annoying. If you lose, it's totally annoying, right? Now, again, yesterday she picked up more delegates. It's just the way that it is covered is so disproportionate to what happened that it's like almost unbelievable. Like, I know it's not conspiratorial, but it is so thorough that someone could be forgiven for thinking it is conspiratorial, right? Which it isn't, okay?
No, I don't think it is either. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago. It's really hard to be an insurgent candidate because you don't have, you didn't go to every barbecue and fish fry for 20 years. You don't know about their kids. You don't know about the details of their life. And you don't know the press the same way.
Yeah, and the Washington press, I think this is my main theory, okay, is that they all live in the same bubble. And so in that bubble, Bernie Sanders never had a chance of winning. Anybody who thought he had a chance of winning is a moron, is a political knife, right? And should be dismissed out of hand. Now, if you try to show them numbers and polls and results, they become further convinced that you don't know what you're doing because they're like, oh, you're conspiratorial to show me numbers where Bernie's winning. But I don't, like, then how can I prove it to you, right? Right. So now the thing is, at this point, I want you to be clear on this. He's not winning, okay? She has a lot more delegates, even if you ignore the superdelegates. But it is a competitive race where he's won a lot of states. It's nowhere near over. And Super Tuesday, for example, was 7-4. She won the southern states she was supposed to win, but she won them, and she won them sizably. And she won them larger than I would have expected, right? And so she picked up a lot of delegates that way. You should talk about that. But you should also talk about, like, hey, we didn't know who was going to win Colorado or Minnesota, and it turned out it was Bernie Sanders. We weren't sure who was going to win Massachusetts. It turned out it was Hillary Clinton. It was a narrow victory, but a really good one for her, right? Just give us balance, give us reality, instead of like, oh, Bernie's bogging down Hillary by maybe beating her. Yeah, but that's not the right framing for a competitive race. So
I guarantee next week, by the end of the week, Bernie can win everything between now and next Sunday, and there will be calls, it's time for Sanders to get out of the race.
And there's
the
no
party to be
question.
unified. It's going to happen.
There's no question. And then so if that's the case, it's how is it not maddening, the disparity? Because as Wes has pointed out, there's so many things that an insurgent candidate has to overcome. All the things he just mentioned, like most people never talk about.
It's
and don't think
miraculous Sanders has gotten as far as he has. I mean, straight up, I believe in democratic socialism. I believe in that he's gotten this far is amazing.
Hey, old friend Jennifer Granholm on TV. Okay, now she's with the Clinton campaign, but I used to work with her at Current TV and really like and respect her. Ben Jealous is also on, so he's going to seriously go to bat for Bernie Sanders as he has been. So anyway, so you've got the fact that he doesn't know everybody on the ground where the Clintons have been there for 20 years, et cetera. You got the biggest factor of all, name recognition. Everybody knows Hillary Clinton, and if you're not knee-deep in politics, almost no one knew Bernie Sanders, okay, when we started this process.
True.
We know him for 40, 50 years, but the overwhelming majority of American voters had no idea who Bernie Sanders was. To overcome that by itself is amazing. Yet add on top of that the entire Democratic establishment, not a little bit, not 60-40, the entire Democratic establishment, including the DNC, is clearly on Hillary Clinton's side. And then on top of that, you add all the media hates you, thinks you should be dismissed even before the voting begins, and finds it insane to even talk about you having a chance of winning, even though you closed a 50-point lead nationwide. Like, there's nothing you can do to get the media to say, oh, we should take Bernie Sanders seriously. With all of those disadvantages, Bernie Sanders somehow is still competitive, and this weekend has already won 2 out of 3 states, and tonight he might win 3 out of 4 states overall for the weekend. And so it's very fair to talk about Hillary Clinton's delegate lead, It's not at all fair to talk about our superdelegates. That is an undemocratic process that'll never stand. Which leads me to point number 2, which is the media keeps counting superdelegates. Almost every count I see has superdelegates in it. But wait a minute, you must suck at your job, because how do you not know, after covering politics all these years, for example, in 2008, dozens of Hillary Clinton's superdelegates, once Barack Obama won the voting, switched over and voted for Barack Obama, because they're like, oh, that's nonsense. Obviously, I'm not going to vote for Hillary Clinton. Barack Obama won. So, yeah, I pledged for you. That was my show of support to you in the beginning, but we're not at the beginning. You lost, so I'm going to vote for Obama. That's what the superdelegates did in 2008. Not all of them, but a lot of them. So how can you count them? They haven't voted yet. Like, they vote at the end. So counting them ahead of time, it indicates you don't understand politics, or you are monumentally biased. And that bias, again, doesn't come from a cigar-filled room where they all conspire together. It comes from the fact that they're all in the same room. They're in that same bubble in Washington.
No, they have dinners together, lunch together. I mean, it was like that scandal over the weekend where they hacked into Trump's voicemail and you could hear all these journalists, left, right, ever. Hey, oh yeah, we're going to have lunch. We're going to do this. They like each other. They hang out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it works, and he's not a part of that. And it makes it that much harder for him to get any traction. Add to that you've got, look, we live in an oligarchy, and he's telling the people with money, I'm going to take some of your money away from you. Even bigger, because who's paying for all the advertising?
Given all of that, the distance that Bernie Sanders has made up, the number of states he has won, and sometimes the enormity of his victories in Kansas. This guy who had no chance and was given no chance won by 35 points last night. So given all of that, what he's done is nearly miraculous. And how does the media treat it? Instead of saying, wow, isn't that amazing? Even if he loses, wasn't that amazing? It's nothing. It's nothing. Move along here. Why doesn't he just get out already? God, this guy's so annoying. Part of the reason he's so annoying is because he's coming for them. He's coming for that oligarchy. If you think that the major media organizations, the top 6 organizations that own most of the media in America,
90%,
aren't part of the oligarchy, well, then you didn't get clued into what's happening here. They are part of that power structure. They love that power structure. They get their power and their wealth from that power structure. So, of course, they hate Bernie Sanders. So that's why they won't come on TV and go, wow, instead of, it's no big deal. We always knew it. He's in the white states, the Bernie states, the weird states. We always knew it. I mean, what he's done is not interesting or important. Let's just make sure that he gets out of the race immediately. Gee, I wonder why you're covering it that way.